Good evening, everyone. This is Sala with Drive-thru Therapy. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight on another episode. And as always, I'm grateful for your support. And tonight, we're going to be talking about something that I think is the most addressed topic in mental health. And I want to give you a different perspective based on my years of experience in working with people with depressive disorders that have tried medication, that have tried to not do it with medications, tried psychotherapy. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what worked and what didn't work and the things that I've developed to help you strategically focus on the thought pattern that is depressive. I want you to understand the disorder, the depression disorder, is really identified by a person's report. A patient comes in, they're talking about themselves, their worldview, how they see themselves in the world, and they are reporting to the clinician or the provider or the doctor what their emotions are and how they're coping with their emotions. If they're feeling depressed most of the day, if they are experiencing loss of interest, they're saying whether they are experiencing any low motivation, low energy. Let's see what else. Isolation, or possibly at times suicidal ideations. And the clinician or the doctor or the therapist collects the information from your report, and based on what you're stating, they're perceiving these as symptoms. What you're saying, what you're reporting are the symptoms. And we are looking at our DSM manual, diagnostic manual, and we're determining that you fall in the category of possibly having major depression disorder. So we're not looking at you from a chemical perspective, right? And at least not when I'm doing it. We're really pulling out whether you're depressed or not based on what you're verbalizing. That's all it is. I want you to know that when we're looking at depression, we're not going inside your head looking at receptors. We're actually just listening to your report. If your report was different, then you may not match the criteria for major depressive disorder. A therapist, a clinician, we're looking at it as a guideline for the most part. We just want to kind of use that, but not necessarily think that that's all you are. But I can understand that a patient finally reaching for mental health help and being told that they have a major depressive disorder. In a lot of ways, I could see the positive effect of it is that I finally, as a patient, feel validated for those emotions. And maybe before I wouldn't call it that, but now I have a name for it. And it's just so powerful to have a name for what I finally feel every day. And that's great. I think that's the wonderful part about mental health is that it does educate our society that on the inside, we have to be concerned with ourselves. It's not just an outside thing. It's not about money. It's not about the physical world. All this is good and great, or not good and great, but on the inside where it all matters, because that is the lens you're seeing your world in. So as I've practiced for years as a therapist, I had to confront a problem that was pretty consistent in the mental health world, which is many people have tried medication. They've been diagnosed with depression. The medication would alter the emotion slightly, and maybe quite a bit, enough to keep a person feeling better is the word, for a little bit. And then eventually the chemistry is going to need more alteration and more alteration in order for it to sustain the effects that were perceived as positive. So we're realizing, and this is a fact, that not everybody is going to benefit from medication. Medication is out there as an option. And in our Western world, it is the primary option when it comes to treatment of mental health. And I'm not sure that that's usually that's the healthiest thing, because in our world, therapy is considered an alternative medicine. So you're going to be recommended primarily to get medicine first to address the symptoms that you are verbalizing before you actually address the core, which is going to be addressed hopefully in therapy. I want people to really look at these disorders not as a law-like, stiff, inflexible thing. They are just a kind of a guideline, like a criteria that we just look at to see, okay, this is kind of the neighborhood that you're in. But it doesn't mean that's who you are. It's not your identity. You don't have to live with it for the rest of your life. And I wish us providers and clinicians would be accountable enough to say, you don't have to live with this for the rest of your life. It can get better, and eventually it can get resolved. It makes perfect sense when you're thinking about that your report as a patient, your verbal report. It is the only thing, ladies and gentlemen, that we are using to determine your diagnosis. It isn't chemistry, friends. You're producing and generating that chemistry based on your thought process. We all experience sadness. Sadness is part of our human experience. It's part of the many emotions and experiences that we experience. It is not the main one, but people may over-identify and have been over-identifying with sadness as being more real than all the other emotions that we could have. When you start identifying your sadness as being your identity, in itself, that is not the nature of an emotion. An emotion is meant to come and go. It is not meant to stay in a fixed state. But as humans go, that's what we do. So when we think about sadness, we encounter situations in our life where we experience bouts of sadness. For example, they're all appropriate. For example, loss. If we lost a child, if we lost a job, if we lost loss in general, loss feels like loss in the brain, and we will experience sadness. It is not anything that you should say you shouldn't be feeling or feel ashamed to feel. This is absolutely normal. And we want to normalize this. So this way you don't think that you are your sadness and there's something wrong with you because you feel sad. But sadness is usually based on the circumstances outside. Something occurs and then I'm reacting to the circumstance with sadness. So the nature of it is normal and temporary. What I mean by temporary also is that it's not a constant feeling all day long. It's not something that I just kind of reach for all day long. There are situations where I will experience sadness over and over again because loss is hard to reconcile in our brain. So that one would, for example, would be something that would take some time, and you'd experience appropriate sadness. There's nothing wrong with it for some time. Now, depression is not necessarily about a response from an external situation from the outside. Although we may be affirming using stuff on the outside, but the sadness is generated most of the day. And nothing has to happen in order for us to experience this feeling of constant sadness known as depression. So in depression, you're not reacting, again, to an external circumstance. On the inside, you are habitually generating thoughts that will eventually result in depressive symptoms. And then you produce them so much that eventually it impacts whether you're going to get up and do things. It's going to impact how you see your world. You might have a pessimistic outlook on life, a sad one, a bleak outlook on the future. All these things come from this habitual thought process. I want you to know right now that you are not your habits. You are not your habits. How we know this is habits are capable of changing. And your thought process when it comes to depression, I want you to think of it as a habit. No more, no less. I'm generating this thought process all day long. The first thing we got to do is to take accountability for that rather than become helpless to our feeling. When we feel helplessness towards our feelings, that I can't change them, it's just something I have to live with. Unfortunately, that's where depression gets progressively worse and it thrives. And sometimes we're waiting from an external source to save me on the inside. An external source that is happier than me to save me on the inside and help me produce happiness or contentment or peace. This, of course, is also the thought process associated, unfortunately, with medication. That's why it's so useful for people to rely on medication to do this work, because it's an external thing outside of them. They're like, I'm willing to trust the medication more than I trust myself, which is sad. And unfortunately, I found as the years went by that it might delay the process of actually shifting inward and having to take accountability for depressive symptoms on the inside of me, because I'm the one generating them. So whether it's medication, whether it's hot wings, whether it's sugar, whether it's sex, anything outside of you that is used to get you away from depression is only going to require you to need more of it, because you're not producing it yourself. And so you build up tolerance and you're going to want more. That's why this results sometimes in overeating, addiction. Those extremes happen because we have on the inside not taken accountability emotionally to say, I am able to generate healing on the inside. The healing is not necessarily coming outside of me. I'm to be trusted on the inside. So I found quite a bit from my experience, people coming in that have tried medication and it worked for a little bit and it stopped working. And the truth of the matter is that unfortunately it will not change the core of the problem. If you are feeling feelings of depression, they're usually generated by a thought. I'm going to prove that to you why this happens. It's not just chemistry. You're producing the chemistry. And how I'm going to prove it to you is just simply by this example. A person that thinks happier thoughts does not necessarily feel depressive symptoms in the moment, right? So when you think a happy thought, it equals generating a happier emotion. If you think a negative thought, you're going to generate negative emotions. It's not likely that I'm going to feel contentment all day long and be depressed because I'm generating a thought process that produces kinder chemistry. I hope you're following me. So I want us to use this formula because it's a legitimate formula. We all observe it. We feel it. We know it to be true based on just observation. We don't even have to study it. We know it. That if I think a happier thought, more than likely I will experience a positive emotion. So when you are getting medication because you think negative thoughts and you're going to produce positive chemistry, the thoughts are still there. You're going to still think habitually what you're going to think. So it's not relieving us from the thoughts per se. It's just reducing the intensity when it comes to medication. I don't think it's going to help you change how you solve problems, how you look at your world, how you look at yourself. It will not change all of that. That requires the shift inward to start doing the work on yourself and to change the thought process that keeps providing and generating you with depressive emotions and chemistry. So please understand that depression is now habitual versus sadness is a response usually to something or a situation that's temporary. That's also, a normal part of our world and experience, and it makes sense. So when you're depressed, you have a habit of thinking from a depressive perspective. So you will be generating emotions that are depressive. So this episode is for people that want to work on depression at the core. Not from a superficial perspective of let me alter the chemistry. Because again, I've never found this to be a long-term situation. I mean, it might help people transition from difficult situations, but it won't long-term help you build the resilient coping skills on the inside that you need to build. So I'm not a fan of shortcuts when it comes to mental health. We got to do the work. Unfortunately, eventually people do not do what is recommended, which is let me take the medication and do the psychotherapy together, which might help us transition into a place where I'm actually working on depressive symptoms without fully relying on the medication to help me feel better. But unfortunately, that's not what occurs. People are relying on the medication to do all the work for them, and it feels good for a little bit, but eventually things pop up. The coping skills that we need to learn, the muscle we need to build isn't there. And there goes the problem once more. I mean, I see this quite a bit in my years of doing this. So that's why I go back to, I'm not a fan of shortcuts. This is not going to work long term. Those temporary fixes are not going to work long term. My money is on you as a patient doing the work, and more than likely you're going to see the impact of it. And the more that you do the work and change those depressive symptoms, your report of it will eventually change. And then you will not meet criteria for depression disorder. Yay! That's wonderful. That's wonderful news. But people get scared when I say that. They're like, oh my God, I don't think I can rely on myself to fully do that. So as you can see, there are barriers to people meeting me at that place where they are to be trusted to help themselves get through this. Almost everybody that's experiencing this says, well, Tala, I'm the one who's generating these negative feelings. You mean to tell me this is the same location where I can generate feelings of healing? And the answer is absolutely. Absolutely. You're all of it. You're the little universe that does everything. And everything you've ever wanted is on the inside of you. And all we got to do is get you closer to that treasure so you can open it up for yourself and utilize it. So I no longer want us to look at depression as just a thing that you just got to live with, that we're helpless to it. The thing is, you are very helpful to it, and you are the source of its healing. It definitely might be the source of the pain, but most certainly it's the source of healing as well. And it's the only thing that can heal you is you and whatever that works in you. I want you to also know that depression is a habit, and it's a habit and thought process. A habit like any other habit and thought process that you've got. If you're working and you have habits and thinking about work, when you start a new job, you're going to have to slow down to learn new habits in that new job. And eventually that becomes second nature to you, and you learn to think that way in that new job. Believe me when I tell you that thing where you have to change from one job to another and slow down and learn, that's a habit in thought. It's not necessarily a physical habit. It's a habit in thought. You're learning to think differently. Things are placed in the new job differently. Expectations are different. So you're learning. And eventually we learn a new habit and we're able to accommodate it. The same thing when it comes to learning how to be content, satisfied, and happy. We have to learn new thought processes to replace old ones that we go to, which are depressive. So it's just replacing new thought habits. And from that, eventually it becomes your new way of thinking. It's just like that. I don't want to complicate it for you guys, but sometimes it gets complicated when we talk about chemistry and we think it's about chemistry. And I promise your mind, a person who's happy is not generating negative chemistry. Like it's not generating that kind of sad, depressive chemistry. So we're looking at it. We're looking at the answer here. So we got to generate more effectively gentle, happier, content, abundant, loving, generous chemistry or thoughts to produce this chemistry. I want you to think of depression as a wake-up call. It's for you to stop, to see the obvious thing of I'm thinking in this depressive way. I'm not reacting to anything outside of me. There's nothing outside of me that's consistently causing me to be depressed. And to be honest, if there's something's outside of you happening right now, right? Like any kind of war zone outside, you're not going to have time to be depressed, if you will. You're going to just go into coping in different ways to help yourself move. You don't have the luxury of just isolating, experiencing self-pity or I hate myself, I hate my life, or you don't have time. You're in survival mode and you're trying to survive something and you're coping as presently as you can. But unfortunately, depression is not a reaction or a response to a war zone. We're just responding to an inner source of torment. I'm attacking myself. The world is not attacking me. I'm attacking myself. So the perspective now has to shift inward. It is no longer that the world is doing me wrong. I have to consider that if I'm feeling depressed most of the day, it isn't the world, friends. It might just be the thoughts I'm generating. You gotta look at the source. You're the one looking at your world with your lens. Nobody's telling you, this is what it is. You're the one labeling it. So I'm going to give you 6 ways that you're going to start experiencing a shift in your depressive symptoms by generating new thought processes that will help you redirect your thoughts in a healthy way. Because most people are asking, like, what do I do? How do I do this? And these are the 6 ways or the 6 thought patterns that I want you to pay attention to that are going to help drastically change your depressive symptoms. And like anything, like this is a habit, you're going to have to work on it consistently in order for you to see better output for you. But eventually, little at a time, it'll feel better and better and better. And you realize, oh my goodness, the torment I was doing to myself was not real, was really not that real. I could look at my world in any way that I choose to look, but I have not been choosing. I've just been helpless to habits and thinking that are called depressive. So today we are in charge of those habits and changing them. But just like any habit, like I said, you're going to have to do the work intentionally. You're going to redirect yourself to those specific thought patterns that I'm going to talk about and be consistent. We're not looking for quick fixes here, ladies and gentlemen. We are looking for consistency. That's what we're looking for. Consistency is sexy. That's what I want you to think from here on out. Okay. Now, I got 6 ways or 6 things that I want you to take a look at when it comes to thought process that are going to help us not meet depressive criteria anymore. Oh my God, Tala, what are you saying? Yep. I mean, if I know you're depressed based on your self-report, your verbal report, then if you report differently, guess what? I don't look at you that way. If you truly want to change this, then we're going to have to change the way we talk about our world and the way we think about our world. And that will require developing new habits, like I said. So the first one we're going to do is getting out of the self. When you're inside your head thinking about yourself, about your feelings, about which feelings I should be feeling instead of the feelings I have. If I'm fighting with myself about my thoughts, I shouldn't be thinking those thoughts. I hate myself. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And I'm kind of just on the inside developing this inner world, and I'm in it all day long. I'm in my head. All that will do is exaggerate depressive symptoms. Exaggerate it. Usually people in their mind are practicing this all day long, which sounds like self-pity, right? You are very much right. It is self-pity, but I'm just calling it getting out of the self. So how do we get out of this inner self, all about me and my self-involved thought process inside and how bad my life is and how I'm talking about it so bad, talking about myself all day long. That's so bad. And bad things happen and right? How do I get out of this? By being present in my life, by being present in my real life. The thing is, when I'm getting out of myself, then I'm actually dealing with what is in front of me. And then I am being of service to someone. So whatever that may look like, whether I'm at work, actually helping people, then I'm really present with them because I'm not inside my head thinking about how bad my life is and doing an inventory of it every day and using these depressive thought processes. All I'm doing is being present and helping another. And this could look like volunteering, getting out of the self, people, whatever you want to do that sounds like getting out of the self. Being with my family. If my son is playing video games and I'm having a rough day, guess what? I'm not going to isolate myself from him and just be moody with him because I had a rough day or be irritable towards him. I'm going to sit and play with him his video game, even if I don't want to. And the reason why is because I'm getting myself out of this thought process. I'm getting out of myself. The world does not revolve around me. Good news. And because of that today, I can be present in my life, enjoy my son, play video games with him, see him get excited that I'm going to play with him. All this is just so cool to me. And I can be present. I don't know how you can get depressed when you're seeing all this and you're actually in your life, not in your head. So get out of your head and step into your life and be present. Number 2 process that we need to change to and redirect to is to create. Create or creating, I suspect, is one of the things that we came on earth to do. It just seems intuitively right. We feel better when I'm creating a pie. We feel better when I am creating a clean space. We feel better when we are creating something, like whether it's I'm writing a book or creating a new way of doing something that maybe helps another. When I'm in the creative mode, when I'm creating something, whether it's a painting, it's a recipe, I don't care what it is. If you're passionate about it, you are basically growing. You're making moves to grow. So this idea of creation supplies us with a lot of movement in our emotion. If depression is a stagnant energy, which it is, stagnant, helpless energy, hopeless energy, creation and that concept of creating something, you're generating new, you're moving forward, it's movement. As a matter of fact, I think most of the emotions we're going to talk about today that are going to help us through are those of movement. They're emotionally moving you away from this state. So again, going back to number one, getting out of the self. The next one is creating. You are generating growth. You feel growth in this new mode of creation. It's been said before, not by me. It's been said before that if you are feeling depressed, there's something called the creative depression, which helps us feel depressed so we can start bursting into the creation mode and start doing things and opening doors to experiment with the world. Now, while you're experimenting with new things, while you're growing and learning new things, while you're refocusing those, I'm not sure if depression is going to be your main focus, right? Because what you focus on consumes your world. So you're not repeating nasty thoughts. What all you're doing is refocusing on generating growth, and we are deserving and we are worthy. And I think I'm talented and I'm capable and I'm going to do things based off of that. How could we not feel better in that thought process? So create, being in the flow and doing something that I enjoy. Oh man, oh man, oh man. It's a wonderful feeling, and it helps us move emotionally. It's not the actual thing you're creating. I don't really care about maybe the painting that you're painting. It's not necessarily about the painting, but it's about the process on the inside of being with yourself, kindly growing into something that you're doing and growing with something that you're doing. It's just a very beautiful feeling. It's subtle, and it just makes us feel so worthy and so loved and happy to be human. So please engage in creation. That's one thing that's going to help us out of this depressive cycle. Number 3, I want you to remember this, and I always say this, but hey, there's nothing better than repetition in my world, because your brain loves it, even if you don't consciously. Okay. Number 3 is acceptance of where we're at and the responsibility to take ourselves where we want to go. Oh man. If I can just narrow down one thing that we need to do to get just more harmonious on the inside, is acceptance of what's in front of me. I don't know how many episodes I've done on just acceptance, whether it's radical acceptance, acceptance of the self, acceptance of the world around us. I mean, you see what I'm trying to say here. When I accept things, I stop fighting with them. Friends. I don't negotiate with them anymore. I accept things as they are. And in that moment, I can take the responsibility to get myself where I want to go next. It doesn't matter what the situation is, friends. I know what you're saying. Well, Tala, I experienced this really bad situation, like losing my job or losing my partner for 20 years. I hear you. But in that moment, you have a decision to make. You can utilize this. You can look at the situation and affirm negative feelings and thoughts, or you can look at the situation and choose to affirm feelings of movement. Again, going back to movement, accepting things as they are real quick. And then what do I want to do next? It doesn't mean I'm dismissing my emotions. On the contrary, I'm being present with them. I could still be sad because of the loss, but do things to help move forward. So if I lost my job, for example, I'm going to move forward by applying elsewhere, by visualizing what it would look like to work at a new place and getting excited about that. So acceptance in the end allows us to move. It's much more, again, emotional movement. I accept the situation as it is. I'm not sitting there ruminating how bad it is, how it shouldn't have happened. This should have been a different way. Oh my God, why did this happen to me? I'm not sitting there nitpicking the car accident that I'm in and the situations in that car accident and how bad it is and why does this thing happen to me. We're not doing all that, folks. All we're doing is stepping back. I accept that the vehicle accident happened, and now what do I need to do next? And the movement forward, whether I need to take care of the people that were in a car accident with me, make sure that we're given proper medical care, try to investigate buying a new vehicle, whatever I need to do to get moving. I don't care what the situation is. Resiliency is about bouncing back from adversity. So again, it's about movement. Resiliency is movement and emotion. If it isn't emotionally moving you in a positive direction, it's not it. I need you to think what moves me in a positive direction. So acceptance is the quickest way, accepting of whatever it is. And what do I need to do next? I ask myself that question almost every time I'm met with adversity. Okay, Tala, this is a difficult situation. Yep, it's a difficult situation. I don't just keep repeating, oh my God, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. I want to keep moving. So I accept it is a difficult situation. And then what do I need to do next? And then I just do it. I do it with humility. And sometimes, friends, that's what it is. Just doing it with humility. I don't know why this thing happened. It had to happen the way it happens. I accept it. It already happened. That's what it is. It's a fact that it happened that way. What do I want to do next? All for the highest good. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Now, the next one is going to be understanding and accepting that I can't control a feeling and I can't control a thought that come in. I may not be able to control those. They're going to come in. But I can control my reaction. People have died to demonstrate this truth. And I want you to remember it as a truth. That I may not be able to control my thought and my feeling. They're going to come in. But I have the power to control what I react and do after I feel those thoughts and feelings. One of the main criteria of depressive disorder is loss of motivation or loss of interest. So basically, I'm not getting up and doing things, or I'm isolating from people. So my reactions in a physical sense to my feelings and my thoughts correspond. So I have these negative feelings and thoughts, these depressive feelings and thoughts, and then I have reactions to affirm that. So in a lot of ways, your reactions actually keep affirming your thoughts, so your thoughts come back again. It's like a cycle. And then you affirm, the thoughts and feelings will come again. And of course, you're feeding them with this and affirming them with your reactions by isolating, by overeating, or by being moody and hurting another. Whatever that we're doing, it's a cyclical thing, and that we're going to keep doing it until we stop the cycle. And how do we stop the cycle? We have to, even with the feeling and the thought that I have, my reaction has to change. So that would be, I'm no longer isolating from people. When I'm feeling sad or feeling depressive symptoms, I'm going to get up. I'm going to do things that I usually would do on a day where I have energy. And you're going to push yourself to react differently. I do not isolate from friends when I'm feeling sad. I start to accept and receive their love, and I go out with them, or I give them love. I'm not isolating myself. So now my reactions are affirming new thoughts that I'm going to have, right? I'm going to affirm that I'm capable of doing things no matter what the feelings are. I'm going to engage in my life, be present. I'm moving. And it may be actually a physical movement. Like, for example, I'm going to get up and exercise today by just walking. And it's not about the exercise, even though that does produce antidepressants for free on the inside. But it's about reacting differently. So I don't care if it's like I'm going to get up and I'm going to bake a pie, or I'm going to call a friend to have a cup of coffee with them. Not talking about my problems, because that will only affirm more bad feelings and making something even more solidified in our psyche. We're not going to do all that. We're going to go and enjoy them. We're going to talk about other things. We're going to do other responses. So this way I can work against meeting the criteria of low motivation. I'm going to react differently, friends. And look, you're going to get the biggest gift of all, because you don't have to feel different to react different. You don't have to think differently to react differently. you are capable of controlling your reaction. Once you know that, boy, oh boy, you can conquer every goal that you've ever desired. Once you understand that your thoughts and your feelings do not have to correspond with your reaction. I can have a thought and a feeling of all kinds, and I don't need to have the reaction. I don't need to react to affirm them. So make sure that you're affirming the correct thoughts that you want to affirm. Don't keep affirming depressive thinking. You have the power to do that. Again, we want to get rid of this criteria that you're meeting. We want to make sure that we alter it. And one of the main criteria is the loss of motivation. And so we're reacting against it. So again, I can feel depression, but I don't have to react on it. You are a very powerful human. All right. Number 5. Oh man, this one here, please get rid of, which is eliminating comparison. There is no happiness in that thought. There's no contentment. There's no love in that thought. When I am comparing myself to another, whether it's through a situation, through a place, a thing, I'm comparing them and what they mean about me. I'm considering that I'm inferior somehow. Even when I'm trying to prove superiority, I'm also confirming that I am inferior to begin with. So it is not a healthy thought process at all. Comparison, comparing your life to somebody else's life, comparing yourself to somebody else. All you're doing is stealing your own joy, because there's a saying that says, comparison is a thief of joy. Please live by that. Do not participate in any form of comparison when it comes to you. There's no need to compare human beings. I've worked with human beings for a long while now, and I could tell you that it's impossible for me today to compare one human being to another. Everybody's where they need to be at the time they need to be at. Is the best way to say that. There's nowhere there should be. Everybody's where they're at, and I got to meet them where they're at. We're allowed to be there. But eliminating comparison helps us look at ourselves kindly. We're also looking at people kindly. I'm not disconnecting from people anymore. I'm finding connection with them. I'm finding enjoyment with them. I don't think they're a threat. But if I'm comparing myself with them, they become a threat in my mind, which results in maybe isolation and disconnection from others. And I'm going to feel even more lonely and more isolated. I'm going to perceive that the world is threatening to me or attacking me in some form. But again, our thought process is the one attacking us. So eliminate comparison. It is the thief of joy. It is pure misery. Comparing yourself to another person when it comes to career. I mean, what's the point comparing yourself to another person, another coworker of yours in a workplace? What's the point? What are we doing here? What is the thought process eventually going to get you to? Depressive symptoms. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I mean, that's what you're proving or affirming. I hate to say it this way, but yeah, that's what we're doing. We're affirming these thought processes or these beliefs that are not real. We don't need to affirm them. So stop comparing. Things shouldn't be a certain way. They are just what they are, and that's what they are, and they work for the highest good. For example, if you have a birthday coming up and you're expecting all these things and people do not meet that expectation on your birthday night, you're going to ruin your own birthday night because you're going to get disappointed that those expectations are not being met. And then the people that are celebrating your birthday are just doing it differently. It may not be the way you want it. So you might see it as less than as you are comparing it to your expectations. Ask yourself, how many times a day do I compare the world to my expectations? And my expectations result in disappointment, basically. Expectations result in disappointment in this case, because I just need to let things flow, like people celebrating me or not celebrating my birthday. It needs to feel, it's just what it is. It's just what it wants to be. When I am celebrated, it's wonderful. When people forget, that's wonderful too. It's okay. It's going to have to work because they don't have to think I'm the center of their world. And I want it to come naturally, not because they have to. We want people to do what they want because they want to do it. Not because I have these expectations, and if they don't meet them, they don't care about me and they don't love me. And we go to this self-talk that is nasty, and it disconnects me more from people. And it feels, again, lonelier. So don't even bother. Stop comparing your expectations to what's happening. Just stop. Expectations kind of ruin things, and you comparing is double ruin. So Don't even bother, friends. Okay. Now, last one at 41 minutes. Oh boy. Gratefully, this is the last one, but this is so important, you guys. And I want you to listen to this. Even if you piece it off, that's cool because it's so worth it. The last strategy I want you to help reduce your symptoms drastically would be to stop self-criticism as a corrective measure. And that's what most people think of self-criticism as a corrective way to talk to ourselves. That I'm a bad person, and if I say that I'm a bad person, I'll work on being good. Well, I mean, I've never seen that level of self-hate gets us to self-love. If you practice self-hate, you're going to get to self-hate. If you practice self-love, you're going to get to self-love. It just goes without saying. I can prove that to you in yourself as a human being over and over again. So don't bother trying to get to self-love from a place of self-hate. No, ma'am. No, sir. That will not occur. That will not occur because you've been practicing self-hate to begin with. So remove this idea of self-criticism. Add flexibility, add grace, add self-acceptance, self-love, self-compassion, and the practice of it. And if you don't know specifically how to do those things, I have episodes on them in particular, but also you can look them up, read what other people say about them. And I just like look at self-compassion, just research it based off of Google, learn the basics. And even though you might think you know what it is, go back to now applying it. I don't care if you intellectually know it. Do you apply it? That's the difference. There's a difference between that just can intellectually know everything versus a person who actually applies it. Now they have a whole different knowing. Criticism as a corrective measure. I may not be able to stop a thought, like I told you before. I may not be able to stop a thought, but I can react differently and I can redirect a thought. So if I start to criticize myself, I'm going to redirect that thought. I'm going to catch it real quick and redirect it to something to where it's like flexible, grace, forgiving, self-compassionate. I do this all the time, because I'm human. And so the thoughts will come in that sometimes I'm criticizing myself. And my old habits come in of how to take accountability by criticizing myself, but gently and kindly, I will redirect myself to self-compassion. Everybody benefits from it. I'm in a better mood. I treat people better because I'm in a lighter mood. I'm not feeling oppressed on the inside and I'm not feeling spread too thin emotionally as I'm generating really messed up hormones, messed up emotions. I'm generating really good ones. And so in this case, everybody gets the benefit of it. I'm going to act better in a way. So I want to act better. And that is about redirecting self-criticism into self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, forgive. I have some episodes on forgiveness. Please go to them. Listen to them over and over again. All these episodes, friends, are made for you to listen over and over again. They're not put in any specific order. They're made for you to have a little chit chat with yourself when you're feeling down. I use this when I had to change myself. I still do. When I need to change myself, my own thoughts don't sound that great. So I listen to something that sounds better than I do in that moment. And it helps me to redirect my focus on something that sounds better. And eventually that becomes what I stay at. So it's okay if we don't sound good. Just listen to something that sounds better than you. That's okay. And I use this all the time. It was essential in my transformation as a human being and in my growth. And that's why I have this podcast set up the way it is. You can go on to any episode, depending on what you're working on, and listen to something. And I listen to it over and over again because they're made for repetition, as your brain loves repetition, as it helps it form a new habit. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I hope this was helpful to you. And again, this episode is for the individual that is just wanting to now work on it at its core, at depression at its core. I don't care what the circumstances are, friends. It doesn't, to be honest, it doesn't matter. A person who's depressive, it doesn't need the circumstances to be bad for them to feel depressive symptoms. They generate depressive thoughts. So I work on the core. I don't care about changing your world outside of you. I'm concerned with you changing on the inside. That's all my focus has been on for years. So Let's do it. Let's all do it this new year coming in, just generating this new change within us and that we are capable of change. And we want to get hopeful about the concept of depression, not helpless to it. Hopeful. Like it's just a wake up call, friends. It doesn't have to be your identity. It's a wake up call. So heed the call. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I'm sending you love and light. Lou Holtz says, it's not the load that breaks you down. It's the way you're carrying it. This has been an episode of Drive-thru.